President Muhammadu Buhari and his Egyptian counterpart Abdul Fattah el-Sisi have pledged further collaboration to eradicate menace of terrorism in parts of Africa. Department of Petroleum Resources seals 56 petrol stations in Cross River. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrests suspects who assisted Nigerian cybercrime syndicate in the United States of America. The National Security Advisor and Inspector General of Police share different views on November 16th governorship elections in Bayelsa and Kogi State. On the international scene, 71 soldiers have been killed in Niger Republic in an attack. Welcome to Standard Voice Television News. My name is San Ahmed Sambo. Also with me in the studios for the news is
Jemima Samuel.
Thanks for watching. The Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, in Cross River State has sealed about 56 petrol stations across the state between January to date for sharp practices. Mr. Philip Awolu, Operations Controller of DPR in the state, disclosed this on Wednesday while speaking with News Agency of Nigeria in Calabar, Cross River State. Mr. Awolu said that the stations were sealed for violating operational guidelines and stipulated standard of the Department of Petroleum Resources. He told News Agency of Nigeria that some of the managers of the sealed stations paid their sanction fees and thereafter were unsealed for business. According to him, the achievements recorded within the period under review across the state were made possible through intensified surveillance and cooperation of staff of the agency. He said during this year, his department inspected about 1,170 filling stations across the state, and out of that, about 876 were active, while 56 were sealed, while others were shanties filling stations that cannot be regularized. Some of the managers of the sealed filling station paid their sanction fees. Mr. Olu also told journalists that the DPR also granted approval to depot operators for various activities ranging from clearing of vessels. He said that the agency generated revenue of government coffers through the processing of applications for marketers.
The National Security Advisor, Babangana Mongunu, and the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, on Wednesday shared different views on November 16 governorship election held in Bayelsa State and Kogi State. While the NSA described the election as fiasco, where the unthinkable happened, the IGP said the polls were relatively peaceful. Both the NSA, represented by Sanusi Galadima, and the IGP, represented by Michelia Makama, spoke in Abuja during the last meeting of the Interagency Cultivative Committee on Election Security with the Independent National Electoral Commission for 2019. Mr. Mongunu said the violence that occurred in Kogi State after the election led to the death of a People's Democratic Party women leader in the state. The suspects that were directly involved were arrested. About 35 of them were arrested in Bayelsa State and are being interrogated by the zonal police headquarters in Benin City. In Kogi, a total of 35,200 policemen were deployed also for the same assignment. And again, there are some skirmishes of violence here and there, which at the end of the day left a woman leader dead.
Some of the governors under the platform of All Progressive Congress APC have pushed for former Zamfara State Governor Abdul Aziz Yare Abubakar as the replacement of Adams Aliyu Oshimole. Despite the intervention of President Muhammadu Buhari, the APC governors have returned to the trenches in their bid to unseat the national chairman Adams Oshimole, zeroing in on the former governor of Zamfara State, Alhaji Abdul Aziz Yare Abubakar, as his replacement. It was learned that last night about 10 of the party's 17 governors have resolved to deepen their push against the national chairman, Adams Oshomole, who has been under intense pressure to stand down over sundry accusations, including his style of leadership, which his traducers claim has left the APC more divided than ever. Pressure from the governors had forced Ali Oshomole to summon the meeting of the National Executive Committee 3 weeks ago, which has not been held since August last year, contrary to the provision of the party's constitution, which mandates quarterly meeting. Preceding the National Executive Committee's meeting was the National Caucus, where the President was said to have provided the national chairman with a lifeline, requesting all the combatants to shield their sweats, and recommended that a reconciliation committee be set up to dose the raging inferno which could consume the party. But at the National Executive meeting, Oshomole's opponent still drew blood. He was, however, saved by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who called the attention of the meeting to Buhari's proposal for reconciliation and pleaded that the process be allowed to run its course. The president's thinking was that the national chairman should be given another chance to retrace his steps by reconciling with aggrieved leading members of the party, including the party's national vice chairman Northwest, Alhaji Ino Abdul Qadir, who had been suspended by his Sokoto State branch, Governors Rotimi Akeredolu and Godwin Obaseki, as well as former Governors Rochas Okorocha and Ibikule Amosun. President Buhari also believed that fences could still be mended between Oshomole and his Edo State Governor Obaseki. But weeks after the lifelined National Executive Committee's meeting, the President has been slow in setting up the Reconciliation Committee, a development gathered has displaced the National Chairman's traducers, who have now returned to the trenches. However, a member of the National Working Committee told newsmen last night that there was no cause for alarm, as he was certain that the National Chairman would survive the plot.
The Kwara State faith-based private tertiary institution, Al-Hikmah University, on Tuesday had begun drug tests on its students. According to the Vice-Chancellor of the university, Prof. Tifiok Ibrahim, the drug test is part of the activities to mark the school 9th convocation. The professor of the community medicine said that the aim is to keep an eye on those students who drug and to know the drug abuser at the point of entry into the institution. He said further that on Saturday, 14th December 2019, the institution will graduate 896 students that had completed their courses of study in various fields. He then urged the federal government to invest 5% of the total revenue from oil and gas in agribusiness in the institution. Prof. Ibrahim said the government can add another 3% on the revenue from oil and gas, which should also be invested in the education sector to make it more vibrant.
Strong indications emerged on Wednesday that former President Olusegun Obasanjo may be supporting the much talked about 2023 presidential ambition of Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State. Former President Obasanjo, in an unusual manner of relating with his former subordinates, visited Governor El-Rufai in Kaduna, passing good comments about him. Obasanjo, though, was not categorical about 2023 presidency. In his statement, said people of Kaduna State have a good leader to work with, other than that the character of El-Rufai is commendable. The former president, whom El-Rufai served as Minister of Federal Capital Territory, pointed out that the governor of Kaduna State is one of the best persons to work with, adding that he is a near genius. While going down memory lane, Obasanjo recalled El-Rufai's part with the Senate, maintaining that the former FCT minister was asked to apologize, but he refused to write a letter of apology to the Senate. The former president also described El-Rufai as a good student because he copied gender inclusiveness when he served in his administration, adding that he made women to matter in government, and El-Rufai has done the same in Kaduna State. He is a very good learner. He described Kaduna town as a melting pot of all ethnic groups in Nigeria and commended the pan-Nigerian character of Governor Nasir El-Rufai's cabinet. The former president, who was in Kaduna on private visit to Governor El-Rufai, described himself as son of the soil, having lived in Kaduna from 1959 to 1967 and built his first house at the Makera area of Kaduna State. According to the two-time Nigerian leader, he was at the Mogadishu Battalion in Kaduna between 1959 to 1967, adding that his visit to Kaduna is like a homecoming. Chief Obasanjo expressed happiness that El-Rufai had created the Kaduna of old because of his executive council reflects the mini Nigeria. Governor El-Rufai in his remarks described the former president as a mentor, adding that he learned many public service skills from him when he served in his government as a minister of Federal Capital Territory. The governor of Kaduna State further thanked Chief Obasanjo for finding time to come to Kaduna and see things for himself.
The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, has announced that the Federal Executive Council has approved 8.43 billion naira for the construction of Tagway Kansa to Dogon Road in Kano State. Mr. Fashola, who spoke on the outcome of the meeting on Wednesday, said the council also approved 32.015 billion naira for the construction of Al-Keleri to Futuk Road in Bauchi State. The minister said the council approved about 40 billion naira for the road project in Kano, Oyo, Ogun and Bauchi State. He said the Ministry of Works and Housing presented two memorandums seeking approval of the Federal Executive Council. The first memorandum was to resolve the conflicts between existing contracts and to rescope those contracts so that the road can be completed. There are two of our contractors working in contiguous locations on the Ijebu-Ibo-Omoni Road towards Oyo State border which is in Ogun State, and also Ijebu-Ibo, Ataigba, Owuno to Ibadan connecting Oyo and Ogun State.
4 months after United States Department of Justice DOJ charged 77 Nigerians with conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to launder money, and aggravated identity theft, at least another 4 Nigerians were among 15 defendants charged on Tuesday for an alleged $18 million cyber and bank fraud at Manhattan Federal Court in New York. A statement by the DOJ on announcing the unsealing of the criminal complaints against the defendant disclosed that 4 of the 15 accused were apprehended in the District of Maryland, the District of Columbia and Eastern District of Virginia on Tuesday, while 1 was already in the state custody. 10 are at large. The defendants are Oladayo Oladokun, 46 years, Faruk Kukoyi, 33 years, Baldin Osuji, 31, and Henry Ogukweri, 32. Others are Joshua Hicks, 24, Anthony Nelson, 28, Derek Banks, 27, Ibrahim Dokori, 61, Jamal Skiti, 36, Paul Yo, 32, Kowan Pool, 29, among others. If found guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud and wire fraud, which all the defendants were charged with, they faced the maximum of 30 years in prison. 7 of the defendants, Messiah Ogukweri, Hicks Banks Pool, William Bali, and Maurice Sisi, who were also charged with aggravated identity theft, could face a mandatory sentence of 2 years in prison. Law enforcement agents from the United States Immigration and Custom Police Departments for the City of New York, United States Secret Service, and Homeland Security investigations were involved in the coordinated investigation.
The Minister of Youth and Sport Development, Mr. Sunday Dare, has said serving corps members of the National Youth Service Corps will enjoy increased allowance as a result of the 30,000 minimum wage from next year. The minister said that the increase in the allowance earned by corps members have been captured in the 2020 budget recently passed by the National Assembly. Mr. Dare spoke during a visit to the orientation camp to the NYSC Iyana Ipaja, Lagos State. In a statement by the media office in Abuja on Wednesday, Mr. Dare assured the corps members that the increase will be effected once it is being signed into law. The minister said over 350,000 youths that pass through the NYSC year are essentially to the success of any change agenda for the present and future generation. He said the template is being set up in partnership with the NYSC Directorate, and some of the digital skills to be learned include data processing, cloud computing, and app development. The minister also announced that he had enlisted all corps members across the country as anti-corruption ambassadors to spread the word, create awareness, and make sure corruption does not thrive.
President Muhammadu Buhari and his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have pledged further collaboration to eradicate the menace of terrorism in parts of Africa. Speaking during the audience with the Egyptian president on the sidelines of the Aswan Forum on Sustainable Peace and Development in Africa taking place in Egypt, President Buhari said the countries of the West African sub-region are already in close collaboration towards combating terrorism by setting up multinational task force. He said since terrorism is a worldwide phenomenon, more collaborative efforts are needed to fight against the menace. President Sisi conveyed his appreciation to Nigerian President for honoring his invitation to participate in the gathering and for his contributions. He also praised the Nigerian President for his leadership qualities and pledged to deepen cooperation and partnership with Nigeria in all areas of common interest. The Egyptian leader briefed President Buhari on efforts of his government on counter-terrorism, particularly on the Sinai and the borders with Libya. He reiterated his willingness to synergize with the Nigerian government on all fronts to conquer the evil of terrorism in Africa. The Egyptian president also invited President Muhammadu Buhari to an opening ceremony of the new capital of the Grand International Museum in October 2020.
The Director General, National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, Brigadier General Svtv Ibrahim, has warned corps members against unnecessary journey, especially at night. The NYSC boss gave the warning on Tuesday in Mangu when he paid a familiarization visit to Plateau State NYSC Permanent Orientation Camp. According to the news agency of Nigeria, investigation has revealed that most corps members who had lost their lives in motor accidents traveled at night. He said he had a meeting with the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, at the Nigerian Union Road Transport Workers, NRTW, to form a synergy to ensure that no corps member is allowed to travel once it is 6 p.m. Brigadier General Svtv Ibrahim said it was resolved that NYSC staff will be stationed at various motor parks to ensure that the corps members comply. The NYSC boss further cautioned corps members against traveling vehicles on the road instead of motor parks, saying that doing that was very dangerous. He also cautioned them against using the social media to spread hate speeches and religious bigotry, urging them to rather use them to promote peace and unity. Brigadier General Svtv Ibrahim said that the essence of the orientation exercise was to promote national unity, integration, and also remove stereotypes.
We go for a short break, and when we'll come back, international scene.
Fellow Nigerians, do you know that constituency projects are actually your projects? Do you know that constituency projects are funded by the federal government? Do you know that you can track release of constituency project funds for projects located in your constituency and follow up to know how they have been executed? Constituency projects happen because government does not want to leave any community out in development efforts. You have a responsibility to know what constituency project has been planned for your community, how much has been allocated for it, and whether value for money has been delivered. Take ownership of constituency projects located in your community. Protect them because they belong to you. Government knows about your needs and is planning for you. Government needs your help to ensure quality delivery. Know that constituency projects are actually your projects. Protect your constituency project. My constituency, my project.
For information on funds allocated to projects in your constituency, call 0800 2255 4272.
This message is from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and the National Orientation Agency.
Welcome back. On the international scene, at least 71 soldiers in Niger Republic have been killed in an attack on a military camp in west of the country. In a televised statement, a ministry spokesman said a substantial number of terrorists were neutralized in Tuesday's attack, which also left 21 military personnel wounded and others missing. President Muhammadu Isufu of Niger Republic cut short a trip to Egypt and returned home following the tragedy that took place at the base in Inet near the border with Mali. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack, which is believed to be the deadliest against Niger's military volatile region. 3 Nigerian soldiers and 14 rebel fighters were killed in an attack on another army post in Agando in western Tahoua region of Niger Republic. Tuesday's attack came in a few days before French President Emmanuel Macron scheduled a meeting next week in the southwestern French town of Pau with 5 presidents from the Sahel to discuss security in the region. That's today's for business news. Mariam Aminu is standing by. Mariam, over to you.
Thank you, Joy. Welcome to Business News. Once again, I am Mariam Aminu. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, says it cannot guarantee industrial peace and harmony if state governors refuse to conclude negotiations and payment of the national minimum wage by December 31. In a communique issued at the end of its meeting with State Council chairmen on implementation of the national minimum wage, the union said there were currently 3 implementation categories in which all states fell into. The communique was jointly signed by NLC President Dr. Ayuba Wabba, NLC General Secretary Emmanuel Ogboaja, and Abdurrafiu Adeniji, National Chairperson, Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council, Trade Union side. The communique noted that Kaduna, Kebbi, Lagos, and Adamawa states have commenced implementation and payments of the new minimum wage, while Jigawa had concluded negotiations but yet to make its first payment to workers. It also noted that Borno, Abia, Kano, Bayelsa, Sokoto, Niger, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Edo, Ondo, Ebonyi, Katsina, and Zamfara states have constituted a negotiating committee between their state government and labor, following consequential adjustments of salaries. States which have not put in place a negotiating committee between the state governments and labor on the consequential adjustments of salaries include Bauchi, Yobe, Rivers, Benue, Gombe, Kwara, Imo, Oshun, Ekiti, Oyo, Anambra, Taraba, Cross River, Ogun, Enugu, Nasarawa, Plateau, Kogi, and Delta states. The communique noted that organized labor in the states comprising the Nigeria Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress, and Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council, Trade Union side, would work in harmony to ensure that all workers enjoy the full benefits of the new national minimum wage. The union urged state chairmen to immediately invoke an emergency state executive council meeting and state congress of all workers to brief them of outcome of the stakeholders meeting on the new national minimum wage implementation. States that are still on the discussion table category 2 should expedite discussions to conclude the negotiations on or before the 31st of December 2019. And that's all we have on business news today. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Mariam. And we now go to our sports studios where Abubakar Sufyan is standing by. Abubakar, you are on.
My name is Abu Sufyan Abubakar, and as usual, I am with the sports update. Former Super Eagles head coach Austin Egbun has shown support for current Super Eagles boss Garnet Rowe, lauding him for his achievements with the national team so far. A 1994 African Cup of Nations with Nigeria and a 2-time World Cupper has said he has no problem with Garnet Rowe not living in Nigeria, comparing him with former successful manager Clement Westerhoff. The former Bayern Munich defender's contract is expected to expire in the next 6 months. but also he is expected to be given a fresh contract by the NFF. Meanwhile, Garnet Raw denied comparing Eberechi Eze with Ejaria as Nigeria works to secure their services for the national team. Both players have impressed for their respective clubs this season, the former with QPR and the latter with Glasgow Rangers in Scotland. Reports earlier this week stated that Garnet Raw has told the NFF that he is okay with only Ejaria playing for national team. And here's the UEFA Champions League update. On Wednesday, Atletico Madrid defeated Lokomotiv Moscow 2-0 at home, while Manchester City defeated Dinamo Zagreb away 1-4. Atlanta defeated Shakhtar also away 0-3 to seal qualification to the next round. Bayern Munich defeated Tottenham Hotspur 3-1, but the results means both teams have qualified for the next round of the competition. After this result, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Manchester City, Atlanta, Bayern Munich, Tottenham Hotspur, Real Madrid and PSG have both qualified for the next round of the competition. Earlier on Tuesday, Liverpool, Napoli, Lyon, Leipzig, Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea and Valencia FC have all qualified for the next round. With 16 teams left in the competition, the draws for the next round of competition will hold next week on Friday. And that's all we have on sports today.
Thank you, Sufyan. And on this note, we have come to the end of the news. Before we go, a quick look at the top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari and his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah el-Sisi have pledged further collaboration to eradicate the menace of terrorism in parts of Africa. Department of Petroleum Resources seals 56 petrol stations in Cross River State. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) arrests suspect who assisted Nigerian cybercrime syndicate in the United States of America. And the National Security Advisor and Inspector General of Police share different views on November 16th governorship elections held in Bayelsa and Kogi states. And on the international scene, you have heard that in Niger Republic, about 71 soldiers have been killed in an attack. That's the news. On behalf of
Jemima Samuel,
my name is Sani Ahmed Sambo. Thanks for watching and goodbye.